Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to our next presentation for the Boys Town Pediatrics Virtual Newborn Expo. My name is Gabby, and I am joined today with Dr. Heather Zimmerman, Boys Town Pediatrician. Dr. Zimmerman, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, it is great to have you here. We're going to be discussing bathing and hygiene today. So, how to give your baby a bath, cutting nails, all that good stuff. So, if you have questions for Dr. Zimmerman regarding this topic, feel free to leave them in the comment section of this video and we'll get them answered at the end. And of course, we are doing another giveaway today. So, if you are interested in winning sensory blocks from Lakeshore Learning, go ahead and also leave a comment below. And we were live every single day these past 4 days. So if you've missed any of those videos, they are saved on our Facebook page under the videos tab. So go ahead and give those a watch when you have time this weekend. Okay, so without further ado, Dr. Zimmerman, let's go ahead and jump into these questions. The first question is, how often should I bathe my newborn?
So we usually say every 3 to 4 days is plenty often. Their skin is really sensitive, and it's especially the first couple weeks, it's very dry. That whole top layer of skin actually comes off after they're born. It dries out from being exposed to the amniotic fluid, and then it comes off, so it sort of flakes off by the time they're about 2 or 3 weeks old. You can really see it peeling. So until that's happened, you just don't need to bathe very often.
Mhm. Great. When bathing my newborn, should I wash their hair every time?
I say yes. You might get some different answers to this one. I think something that I usually recommend is that when you're bathing them, you actually start with their face and you use the washcloth with water only, no soap or body wash, and you do their face, and then you switch to we just use baby wash, so it can be sort of a head and body wash, and then do their hair, and then start working your way down their body. A lot of the hospitals where babies are born, they may have someone actually do a demo with you. But
Mm.
if they don't, if you look up swaddle bathing a newborn, it's the nicest way to bathe a newborn baby because they don't like being cold and naked. And so you sort of swaddle them in one of those little hoodie type towels, and then you just pull out a part of their body and just wash that part, and then rinse it off, and then tuck it back in your swaddle, and then pull out the other arm and do that. And so you kind of go body part by body part to make it so it's a little more cozy and they like it better.
Yeah, that's a great tip, especially during the wintertime here. So, what soap or shampoo is safe to use? I know you just mentioned just a general baby wash. Is there any brand or anything you'd recommend?
Well, first I'll say I don't have stock in any baby companies. In general, people often start with like the Johnson and Johnson or the Aveeno baby lines, and I think those are both really nice early on. Now, if you have a baby that ends up with kind of sensitive skin,
Mhm.
sometimes even Johnson and Johnson products are a little bit too scented or too chemical based for sensitive baby skin, and so then I'll usually end up recommending going more to an Aveeno baby or even just a gentle skin product like you would use, so a Cetaphil or a CeraVe.
Hmm. And what about like scents? Because I know sometimes they're scented. Should we opt for unscented right away, or does it matter?
I probably would early on. I'd go unscented or minimal scent. I think if there is a lot of scent, that's a sign for you that it probably has a little more chemical to it. And so it may be a little bit more abrasive on their skin.
Hmm. Yeah. You don't want to disguise that new baby smell.
That's
With
right.
it anyway. Okay, so the next question is, what is the ideal bath water temperature for baby?
I think a lot of people learn in like they're preparing to have a baby class that you should set your hot water heater temperature setting to 120 or lower. And then the actual kind of preferred temperature for a baby bath is more like 100. So it's similar to their body temperature, really. You don't necessarily need a thermometer or to check the temperature.
Okay.
A lot of people will tell you use the back of your hand because the skin is so thin that if you dip that into the water and it's comfortable for your hand, it's going to be comfortable for your baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Because I know we had a question too about, I know some companies make those rubber duckies that can measure the water temperature, but if you don't think those are necessary and we can just use our hand, that'd probably be better.
Yeah, not a necessity, but really cute and a fun toy as your baby gets a little bit older and more interactive. Rubber
Yeah.
duckies are awesome, just as a way to keep them engaged and distracted.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. So, what about nail trimming? Do I need to trim my baby's nails? And if so, how do I do that?
This is something that stresses parents out a lot because they get really nervous about clipping the nails and accidentally cutting the baby's skin. And I usually show babies when I'm rounding in, or parents when I'm rounding in the hospital, that newborn baby nails are like really thin. They're almost paper-like. And you can often just gently use your own nail and sort of lift the edge and then just gently tear it off. If there is, sometimes they come out with very long nails. So
Yeah.
that'll help prevent from scratching their face. So early on, if you can just tear, and otherwise use a little emery board and just file if there's sort of a little jagged piece. Now, once they're a few weeks to a few months old, their nails get thicker, and that's really when you're going to start clipping them.
Mhm.
And at first, clipping can be a two-person job and or very easily accomplished while your baby's sleeping. So then they can't like be quite as active and moving around, and you can just get that little hand up. And early on, it works best if you use an infant nail clipper. They're way smaller, and a lot of them even have like a little magnifying glass to like help you make sure you're
Oh,
really getting just the nail. And some of them have safeties that fit against the baby's finger right underneath the clippy part so that you can't accidentally clip their skin.
yeah.
All that being said, everybody clips their baby's skin at least one time when they're clipping nails. It's no big deal. Just get like a cold, wet paper towel, put it around there tight, do a little pressure, and then between the pressure and the cold, it will just help the bleeding stop quickly. And then as it heals over the next few days, just put a little smear of over-the-counter antibiotic ointment on it a couple times a day to help it prevent from getting infected.
Perfect. So would you recommend those baby nail clippers over like a Dremel or an electronic filer?
I think I would. They're pretty simple and easy to use, and they work well on both fingers and toes.
Yeah, great. Okay, the next question is about cradle caps. So how do we recognize that? And can you maybe define what it is for parents watching who might not know?
Sure. So cradle cap is super common, and it's not a sign of poor hygiene or anything. It just happens on some babies' scalps. It tends to be recognized as kind of a thick, greasy scale. Sometimes it's sort of cream or tan colored. The thicker it gets, the more dry it will be, and then the more cream or white it will look.
Okay.
So if you first notice just like a little kind of stuck patch in their hair when you're bathing, a lot of times if you just take your nails and kind of scratch in there a little bit, just loosen it up, it'll come right off. If it's a little bit thicker than that, this is where you might want that plastic baby brush to
Mhm.
really kind of loosen up that scale. And then if your baby has a really stubborn patch that's very thick and dry, a good trick is to take a little oil, and this could be baby oil or olive oil or coconut oil, whatever you want, put it in your hand, and then rub it into that spot about 10 minutes before you're going to do your bath. So it has time to really soak through the scale. And then when you go to scrub in the bath, it'll have loosened the scale up a little bit and help get it off.
Yeah.
It's usually just dry skin. Occasionally, there is a little bit of a fungal or yeast component to it. And so sometimes, if it's very stubborn, and this would be more like not just in the first couple months of life, but still an issue in late infancy or even toddlerhood or preschool age, then we'll sometimes use some antifungal shampoos for those kids.
Hmm. So what causes cradle cap? I know you said it's not from bad hygiene. Does it happen
Just,
to
yeah,
more babies than not, or?
I would say 50% of babies probably have a little bit. It's just
Okay.
dryness and
Yeah.
just debris.
Okay. Good to know. So do I need to clean my baby's ears? And if so, how do we safely do that?
This is a great question. Early on, the only thing you need to use is like your pinky finger in the washcloth. So when you're bathing them, just get in all those little crevices, go right in the middle with the washcloth. That's all the further you need to go in. As they get older, we'll remind people we actually don't want you trying to go more into their ears with a Q-tip, for instance, because that can just push wax in instead of helping get it out. And then they can end up with a ton of wax in there that we have to dig out in clinic, and nobody likes that.
Right. No Q-tips. Okay. So what about diaper rash? Do you have any tips for healing and preventing it?
So early on, if you are breastfeeding, a lot of times breastfed babies end up with quite a diaper rash early on just from when they have their transitioning stools and end up with those loose CD stools 8 to 10 times a day. Just all that moisture could irritate anyone's bottom. And so I'll actually recommend using a little diaper cream preventatively. So just
Mhm.
every poopy diaper change after you do the wiping, then just quick swipe on a little bit of diaper cream or diaper ointment to make more of a protective barrier because you're just between the moisture and then how much you're wiping, that can be irritating.
Right.
Now, if they have a little bit more of a yeast looking diaper rash, which is going to be more to the front of the diaper area in a boy or girl, and if it looks like kind of bigger red bumps,
Mhm.
that's when a little over the counter antifungal cream, which clotrimazole is the generic name for Lotrimin, and you can just get that at Target or Walmart or Walgreens.
Yeah.
Putting that on there a couple times a day can help.
Okay, great. So, eczema and dry skin is very common in young babies. We talked a little bit about it on Monday with Dr. Gillespie for winter baby care, but I would love to know your recommendations on what parents can use to help.
So usually, if eczema is going to show up, it's going to be around 2 to 3, maybe 4 months that we'll start to see it, and it'll be little pink, scaly, dry patches. And a lot of times on babies, it's actually on like their belly or their back first, and then as they get a little older, it might be into their elbow folds or their knee folds. And if you're seeing kind of that little bit of dryness, the first thing you need to do if you're not already is go ahead and move up to bathing more often. And this surprises some people because they think bathing your baby more often might dry the skin out. But actually, kids with bad eczema probably need a bath every single day. And we want to just be careful. Don't use too hot of water. And then when you're done, don't rub them dry, really dry with the towel. Just pat dry so you get most of the moisture off. And then put your good thick cream or lotion on. And then that'll trap that moisture in on their skin. And so just changes in bathing routine and moisturizing every single day, if not twice a day, will oftentimes take care of really mild eczema. If they still have some patches, the next thing I tell parents to try at home would be using like some Aquaphor
Mhm.
or Vaseline, just a little bit more thick, greasy ointment to really trap in moisture on those spots. And then if they still have areas that are really red and inflamed, that's where we'll add a little topical steroid, either over the counter or prescription.
Mhm.
For most babies, eczema is only about dryness and sensitivity, and it has nothing to do with food allergies. I feel like that's the thing everyone worries about right away when they see eczema on their baby, but it's super common. It's usually just dry, sensitive skin, and a lot of times just those changes in bathing and moisturizing will take care of it.
Yeah, that brings up another good question. So, you said at the beginning, when they're really little, not to bathe them too much. When should parents transition into bathing them more as they get older?
That's a great question. I actually meant to say that earlier.
You're good.
So usually by the time they're about 4 to 6 weeks old, babies go from really not liking baths to really loving baths. And so that's actually a good age to make it part of your bedtime routine and maybe go to every other night or so. And then if your baby has eczema, do it every single night. The
Mhm.
other thing, even if your baby doesn't have dry skin, just doing lotion after a bath is kind of a nice way to just take care of their skin, but also relax them more. And so people will do kind of like a little baby massage to help really chill them out right before you're going to put them down to bed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, we just have a couple more questions here, and then we're gonna jump into the questions in the comment section. So if you have a question for Dr. Zimmerman, now would be the time to comment it below. So when can parents start bathing their child with their siblings?
This is a tricky one because I think it depends on the age of the sibling as
Yeah.
well. For in terms of the younger baby, you're going to want them to be old enough to be able to sit up safely in the water. And so the youngest I would say to bathe with a sibling would be 6 to 9 months. Now, the fact that you're going to have two slippery kids in the tub makes me lean towards maybe 9 to 12 months as a better youngest age. And this is one of those things where you might want to look into like a little inflatable seat in the bathtub for the smaller one to have them have a little extra protection. You still need to be right there, but that will just give you that extra hand for the other child.
Yeah, we know it's convenient to do them, all at once, but yeah, definitely safety first with that. Great. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into these user questions. Thank you everyone for commenting, and make sure to keep commenting if you want to win today's giveaway. Okay, so let's see. There are we talked about nail Dremels on the market. Are they safe to use? Like, let's say parents already have one at home. Should they use that, or would you recommend them going out and buying that newborn nail clipper?
I honestly would have to do more research on it
Yeah.
because I don't even know what it is. Sorry.
Okay, no, totally fine, totally fine. Okay, so any tips to make bath time more comfortable for baby?
I think that the swaddle bath was like revolutionary. Whoever came up with that, it is just like newborns went from hating baths to loving baths,
Yeah.
really. So doing that and then making sure that you're relaxed about it, because I think if you're tense and nervous, your baby feeds off that, and then that makes them more tense and nervous too. But if you put on some nice relaxing music, try and make it fun for everybody, it can be a really fun experience.
Hmm. What is the best lotion to use on a baby after a bath, especially a baby with sensitive skin? So do you have like a brand you would recommend or
I will tell you the brand that I liked the best for my kids.
yeah.
Again, I have no stock in the company, but Aveeno had one that was called like Soothing Relief Baby Lotion or Cream. And it had no scent, and it was thicker and creamier than a lot of baby lotions. And I think that's what you want. You want something that really sits on the skin and then absorbs in, not the ones that just like are gone in no time.
Hmm. That's great. Okay, so if a baby has baby acne, should I be using a wash instead of just water on the baby's face?
Actually, no, then it's even better to just do plain water. A lot of times, if they have some baby acne, that skin is already a little more sensitive. And so then we want to keep other products away.
When do babies slash toddlers transition to bathing in the tub versus the sink?
I'd say so without a sibling, like by themselves, usually by about 6 months when they're sitting up well, it works better to do it in the tub instead of your sink, because they're just getting too big and they move around too much to fit in most people's sinks, unless you happen to have one of those really nice oversized farmhouse sinks. But
Mhm.
now they do make, so with one of my children, I can't remember which, we did get a little inflatable duck that the baby sits in inside the bathtub, that it was just meant to be like a smaller bathtub. It was almost like an inflatable pool inside your bathtub. And that was kind of a nice way for us, because we weren't sure about that whole huge bathtub and one tiny baby. So at least he was confined in something a little bit smaller.
Mhm. Do you recommend using lotion after every single bath?
Once your baby is a few weeks old, like 3 to 4 weeks old, I would say yes. Early on, you really don't need to. That whole top layer is going to come off. And so all the lotion in the world doesn't really change that.
Mhm. And then also, what are your thoughts on baby powder for their bottoms or on their necks?
Baby powder, although still available in the stores, is not usually recommended anymore. We worry about them inhaling the powder and that talc being really irritating in the respiratory tract. And so, even for babies with bad diaper rash, we don't actually recommend baby powder. We will sometimes recommend using cornstarch instead if you're trying to get that same kind of powdery absorptive quality. It's not as irritating if inhaled.
Yeah. So if a baby has dry spots on their face, can we use lotion on their face or should we get like a specific baby face lotion?
If they have dry patches on their face, I'd probably use some Vaseline or some Aquaphor rather than a lotion.
Okay. When should you stop sponge bathing a newborn?
Well, I think probably the same age that they like to be undressed more. So by 4 to 6 weeks, you may not need to do quite such a sponge bath or a swaddle bath. And you might be ready to more just have naked baby in the tub, and they'll be happy and have fun.
Yeah. Would you recommend using Aquaphor as a diaper cream or do you have any other recommendations specifically for that?
I actually think Aquaphor works great for the diaper cream. And I kind of joke, if you ever saw that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, how they used Windex for everything.
Oh, yeah.
Aquaphor is like the baby product for everything. Like anything that looks a little weird, will be like, I'll throw a little Aquaphor
Yeah.
on that. So it's just Vaseline with a little bit of healing zinc in it. And so it's really good for most skin issues. I think anything, a really thick cream or thick ointment is going to be best for diaper protection. So Aquaphor or the other ointment products would be like A&D ointment. And then if you want to go more cream, a zinc oxide product like Desitin. If your baby has a bad diaper rash, there's a product called Triple Paste, which is sort of a combination of Desitin and Aquaphor and some other ingredient, but it's really thick, which is what you want with a diaper rash. You want something that just you can stick on there and it stays on there and protects the skin. And so that's a good product for if they're getting a little bit more of a rash.
Yeah, great. So, back to being in the bath, how do you feel about the floaty rings that go around a baby's neck? Are you familiar with those at all?
I'm not.
Okay.
And my gut reaction is, I don't think I'm very excited about those.
Yes, yes. So maybe like that big duck thing that they can sit in would probably be better and safer.
And some parents, I didn't say this before, some
Yeah.
parents prefer to get in the bathtub with their babies when they hit that ready to try the big tub, but not quite sure about it yet. You can actually take a bath with them, or if you think that's weird, put a swimsuit on.
Right. And that way you can hold them and make sure that they're super safe and right there.
Yeah.
What do you recommend putting baby in as a newborn for a bath? There are a lot of options. So I know we talked about like a floaty device. What about those like plastic round tubs that people often put in the tub? Would you recommend something like that?
Yeah, I think the best thing for a newborn is actually the plastic tub that has the little meshy kind of hammock piece in it.
Okay.
And setting that right up in most houses, I picture this like on your kitchen counter, basically, because most people's bathroom counters aren't that big. But somewhere that you can get one or two adults around pretty easily, and they're up at a good height for you, and you're not hunched over, because that'll help make it more fun and relaxing for you too. And then actually, you can kind of transition from the little mesh part that they sit in as they get a little older, like 4 to 6 weeks. You can take that mesh out and now put them more into the bottom of that baby tub, but they're still not in your big tub.
Awesome. This is a good one. When the baby still has the umbilical cord stump, how do you wash the baby without getting the stump wet or infected?
So this is where that kind of mesh sling type bath that holds them so they're not fully submerged in the water works great for both while the umbilical cord stump is still on, and then if you have a baby boy that was circumcised while that's still healing in the first week or so. So you're going to keep them when you put them in this thing. Only their little bottom should go into the water. Their belly should be out of the water. And then as you're washing that part, you can just use kind of a wide berth around the umbilicus.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right. Oh, we talked a little bit about eczema. Do you have any other recommendations for helping with that?
If it's not responding to just increased frequency of bathing with nice gentle products and moisturizing 1 to 2 times every day, that's probably where you want to go in and see your doctor, even if it's not time for your next well check. They may need to add a prescription topical steroid, or they may have some other specific tips.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're getting to the bottom. This seems like it's the last one right now. So, by the way, if you are watching later on after this live concludes and you still have a question that hasn't been answered, go ahead and comment that, and I am happy to facilitate an answer for you and get that from Dr. Zimmerman later on. So, okay, the last one is what are your thoughts on Cetaphil cream on baby? So, we talked about Aquaphor, but what
Yeah.
about Cetaphil?
So Cetaphil is a good product for both the body wash and the cream. Those are nice gentle products that I think are good ones you can use on babies as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right, looks good. And then I have one more question for you, Dr. Zimmerman. So, how can parents get in contact with you to request an appointment or a meet and greet?
So with Boys Town Pediatrics, all of the providers have little get to know you videos on our website. And so if you want to look through them, watch some videos, and then if you see a pediatrician that you think could be a good match for your family, you can either request an appointment for a meet and greet online, or you can just call the clinic. The phone numbers are linked right there for each provider, and set up an appointment. We're currently doing them both in person and via telehealth, which is a nice option for some people. And I know we're trying to be really flexible with when we offer them too, so that like if both parents wanted to be able to attend in late afternoon or early morning or even an evening might be better, just let us know and we try and work with you.
Yes, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run this giveaway here. We are giving away those sensory blocks from Lakeshore Learning. So I have everyone, I'm going to run that wheel. All right, it's on my phone here. Okay, so it looks like our winner today is Kelsey W. So, Kelsey, congratulations. We will send you an email on claiming your prize. And don't forget, everyone, to tune in tonight at 6 o'clock because we do have Dr. Danielle Epson on with the Nebraska Regional Poison Control, and they are going to discuss different ways to baby proof your home. So, this is definitely something you can do now as you wait for baby just to make sure that you're bringing them into the safest environment possible. So we have that tonight at 6, and then tomorrow at 3 on Saturday, we do have a live on helping your siblings adjust to new baby. And that's going to be with Dr. Linda Pasali, who is from the Boys Town Center for Behavioral Health. And then lastly, Sunday will be our last presentation with Dr. Gillespie, and that's going to be about postpartum and self-care for moms. So we still have 2 more days of the expo, great topics to come. And like I mentioned, if you've missed any live presentations or the pre-recorded ones, you can watch those under the video tab on our page. So, Dr. Heather Zimmerman, thank you so much for joining us. It is always great to have you on and to learn so much from you. We're really grateful.
Great to talk with you. Have a great weekend.
Yes, have a great weekend, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.